Hey ladies and gentlemen, Insane Frame here, welcome to the channel. In my previous video I did a legendary run in a nod to honour Mittensquad since he was one of the very best Fallout challenge runners. So I wanted to give him his due by walking a mile in his shoes, and as a fellow challenge runner I thought what better way than to undertake one of the challenges and just sort of give a nice nod to him as more of a sign of respect than anything else. So it was a pretty cool run, and I gotta say thank you Mittensquad for everything you've done. You were one of the very best. However, moving on to today's video, today we're going to go back into Skyrim, and it's going to be a very interesting one. Today we're going to try and beat Skyrim using only restoration. This is going to be a puzzle since restoration spells are great at healing. They don't really do any damage unless going against undead, but we will need to find a way to deal damage. I think I might have an answer. Although it's not reliable, but it wouldn't be a challenge if it was simple now, would it? So that's our first problem. Our second problem is going to be dealing with enemies who are not undead, since restoration isn't going to affect them all that much, but we can endure a lot of hits since we can heal any damage. Trying to deal any sort of damage is going to be pretty difficult. So the main challenge here is getting something to deal damage since we can only use restoration magic in fights. However, we can still get levels and skills, and for restoration we're going to need a lot of mana, some good equipment to be able to keep up our restoration spells. I definitely think this challenge is possible since I do have an ace up my sleeve for this challenge, but the beginning is going to be a game of patience, and I think the Dawnguard are going to come in very handy. But there is a trump card out there, so if you want to guess, feel free to comment down below. So let's quickly go over the rules. We may only use restoration magic in battle, no glitter exploits, no cheating or modding, and we're going to be playing on master level difficulty. So with all said and done, let's go to the start of the game. The game starts like all Skyrim games do, on a carriage with small talk. As always, when we get to the last stop, it's time to customise our character. I decide to go with a Breton since that 25% resistance to magic is going to come in super handy for us, and any resistance for us is going to be amazing. I decide to call ourselves Dr. Breton Quest, not to be confused with Dr. Benton Quest. If any of you know this cartoon, hats off to you, you've had an amazing childhood. So we do the standard divine intervention by Todd and then start the tutorial. It's just a simple hop, skip and a jump since this is the introduction after all, and with the basic movements done, it's time to go inside. I pick the Empire since why not, might as well, and we can still wear any armor we want. However, when Hadvar decides to fight, we can't really do anything other than heal ourselves, but we also have the Breton's dragon scale racial power for a little bit later in the playthrough, but the early fights are just standing around and out heal the damage, nothing we can't handle. When we get to the torture chamber, there is a dead mage in one of the cages, so we go ahead and take his loot, letting us get our starter mage armor. It's not much, but it'll get us on our feet, and when we manage to run away, we get outside. It's all good, and we can begin our quest. So first up is getting our defenses up and running, so we skip the stones and go straight to Whiterun. It's quite early, but the carriage can get us where we need to go, and will be essential early on. So after catching a handful of fish by swimming in the river, mainly to avoid combat and scrap together some gold, we can pop out near Whiterun and easily follow the road to get to the carriage. We get to Morfell and start journeying to a set location on the map that I marked, and then we arrive and bandits are here, but they slay a beastie and they do warn us, so they do have manners, but I think it's best we try to sneak our way in, perhaps because we are so weak, but hey, sneaking is better than combat. So we time our movement to get to the Lordstone blessing and quickly run for it to get out of harm's way, and in the magic effect you can see we got the Lordstone, so we can resist 25% magic and get some armor ratings. Our defenses against magic are not too shabby, and we have passive armor, always a nice thing to have. So now we got our stone, it's time to go back to Whiterun to harvest some Nordic barnacles just outside Dragonfang Keep, and then to steal some garlic from Riverwood. And since we have the salmon roe from swimming earlier, we can go to the alchemy lab, and well, water breathing potions are pretty nice. They are a little trick I've learned from the poison only challenge, and thanks to the experience gained in alchemy, we get 2 perk points into the restoration tree. The first is novice restoration, so our basic heal is now cheaper, and the second is dual casting, so our basic heal can now be supercharged if using both hands. A fantastic start. We also make enough gold to grab us some restoration robes and a ring of minor magicka, so we're in a good spot now. Now that we're equipped well enough, we have some gold, it's time to go to Riften, and we take a little detour. Admittedly, this took about 30 minutes of searching in real life, but eventually we find the Dayspring Cave, so we can go to to Dawnguard. A random fellow follows us even though we are sneaking, so we run away since he might be omnipotent or something. We get to the Dawnguard and we get our first mission from the leader of the Dawnguard, and well, it doesn't really get off to a good start since there are vampires here, so we can't fight them, and the guy we saw earlier is dead, but we decide to loot his apprentice level restoration robes and equip them and progress forwards by running away and flipping a switch. We do sneak enough to get our next level, so it's more health, and we get another restoration perk, regeneration, so restoration spells heal 50% more. We're in good shape, but we just run like our life depends on it, and the vampires are hot on our heels, but we do the old closing the door trick on them using our manners after all, so they are locked out, and we can continue with them behind the door, even though the lever is right there, but they seem to not be able to operate it, so well done, vampires. We managed to do the same thing again since we don't want to fight these vampires, and they are pretty dangerous, so no thank you. The next part is just charging through. Now this does create a problem since we can't come back this way as it's pretty much instant death. So we now have to round up 6 enemies in this small room, and well, it's a lot easier said than done, but eventually I do manage to get all 6 of them there, and it was really tough, but I'm not called Insane Frame for no reason since we still haven't even raised a hand to the enemies yet and start the puzzle. Once the bits and pieces slide into place, we now have Serana the vampire wife, but unfortunately I don't think we can really help her all that much since having a companion kind of feels like a cheap way to beat this challenge, so we go ahead and return Serana home even though she is my favourite companion in Skyrim. So we run through the rest of the dungeon, not even giving the enemies a chance to even start a scrap with us, and we even get a shout to drain vitality. Whilst nice, we can't really use it, so we keep running, and it's time to take Serana home. While she might not like it, at least she'll be safe. We go back to Serana's home, a big giant castle, and we see Lord Harkon, and he makes it obvious charisma isn't his forte, but we refuse the gift and get banished with our life intact, so a job well done. Go back to the Dawnguard, and well, they are not impressed, so we're tasked with getting 2 specialists. So we go to the first guy, a hunter of sorts, and we have to kill a bear, so he'll do all the fighting, and during the fight he goes down, so we become a meat shield, and it's actually good training for us. However, round 2, the guy's up again, so we rummage around and find an amulet of Mara, so restoration spells cost 10% less. This is fantastic for us and is just amazing in general, a great find. Since the bear is just attacking and our friend is taking so long to get up, I decide to go to Whiterun and purchase all the restoration spells available so we can go back to the fight. When we go for round 3, Healing Hands does the trick since we can just stand there and heal our ally, so we don't have to be a meat shield anymore, we can be a proper healer. So with the first part done, it's on to the second specialist, and all we need to do is get her gyro gears a few yards away and hand one to her. We get back to Dawnguard, and after a quick cutscene we finally have what we were after, the Sunfire spell, ladies and gentlemen, so undead creatures can be killed, so we finally have a way to attack. Heck yes! Cue the cup of Yorkshire tea. Now whilst this is good, it is still only a single type of enemy, so we still need a way to beat dragons, but this is where the next part of the plan comes in since now we can attack. We go to the Whiterun to get the story underway since we have a ways to go if we're ever going to face Alduin, but we speak to the Jarl and he points us to his court wizard, and they want us delving in some ruins to get a stone tablet. Standard Skyrim stuff really, so we go to Riverwood and go up the mountain. Now normally the bandits aren't a problem, and funnily enough they aren't here since we can tank the damage quite nicely thanks to our defence of the Lordstone and wearing good armour. So far so good. As we delve further into the ruins, we see a gentleman fall for a trap. We do the honourable thing and solve the puzzle to go further in, and here's where we start to come into our own, but some rats don't appreciate us being here, but we bash our fists against the web and an unwelcome guest is here, but we won't show him just in case people have arachnophobia, and we carry on by bashing our fist against more web. As for the guy with the golden claw, he's no match for the Draugr, he gets cut down, but this is where we shine. Our sunlight spell deals damage to them, so we can pretty much one-shot them no problem, and they just fly across the room with the trap. It's hilarious, and our spell is doing fantastic damage. Honestly, it is phenomenal against the undead since it's doing lots of damage against them. We can easily move forwards in this dungeon, and when a restless Draugr decides to stand up, we give him 3 shots and he's toast. I can get used to this honestly, but it is a bit of a one-trick pony since it only works on undead. As for the Dawnguard Lord, he takes a few more hits and decides to just taunt us as we hit him with Sunlight, and he gets wiped out. And the kill cam plays, and it's oh so satisfying. We go and loot him for the Dragonstone tablets. We complete the quest, but we level up and it's more health, and we have quite a fair amount now, equal to our mana. And I get Apprentice Restoration since it's going to help a lot. We make it back to Whiterun and Delphine is here. Why she couldn't get this tablet herself, don't know, but we then have everyone gather up, but we immediately disappear off since we can't really take on a dragon, but it's off to get educated about magic. So we go to the College of Windhold and we see a lady. She wants us to cast a spell, a fear spell in particular, so we do just that. And she's also a master in destruction magic, so might as well get a few lessons in whilst we can, as it will help our overall level. With this in mind, I decided to get lots of gold by doing the water breathing potion farming again, by getting garlic, salmon roe and riverwood and barnacles from the keep in Whiterun, and repeat the cycle for a few days. Then we can make a batch of potions to level us up and get some gold. Then we can train as much destruction as possible, letting us level up more. Truly, money is power. But we get to level 10 and train our destruction to 40. I think that's enough for now. Also, we've got a lot of perk points now, and this is where the run opens up. So I decided to get 2 points into Juggernaut, since having 40% extra armor from heavy armor can only be a good thing. So now we're a lot more tanky. It's time to go see this dragon that we have to deal with since we're ready. Our dragon skin makes the initial first part of the fight really not that difficult, since the dragon can't really hurt us with its magic, but we also can't hurt it, so the guards do most of the work. But we can go face to face with the dragon since our Steadfast Ward is doing serious work against the fire attacks, so we can be on the ground in the melee. We may be a glorified meat shield, but still it's good to gain experience for our restoration, so why not? We hang around for a little while and the dragon is getting chipped away by the guards, which is marvellous. When he is slain, we're doing great, so we go back to Whiterun and talk to the Jarl, and he says the Greybeards are summoning us, so we have to do the 7,000 step pilgrimage, so it's off to the throat of the world, as it will put our plan in motion and set the main quest in motion too, which is exactly what we want. So we climb the mountain and run from the wildlife, since that's all we can really do, and before you know it, we're at the Greybeards, and when we get there, they make us shout at spectral targets and explain we can learn new shouts and learn incredibly fast like a mutant or something. So we become Sonic the Hedgehog and go through a gate, and they're impressed. However, we go to Riverwood and a couple of gentlemen are not impressed. However, this is exactly what I have been waiting for, and they say that drinking Yorkshire tea sucks and we can't drink it anymore. Naturally, we let a guard know and become a meat shield whilst they deal with our one cultist, and when the guards are limping around, we heal them back to full health with healing hands. Actually quite nice being a medic in Skyrim, gotta say. But we go and get a note and decide to travel to a certain location, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have been waiting for. So we go to Windhelm and we're off to the Dragonborn DLC, as this is extremely important and probably the most important part of the run. So we arrive on the boat and we are now on an island, and well, I've gotta say, it is pretty grim out here for some reason, but we do what we can and everyone is feeling very grumpy, so we go to the beaches and go for a stroll. We find these ash things attacking a captain and we heal the captain, and it's not really doing anything, so I wish him luck since he is a gentleman. We move on and many wild Skyrim Pokemon try to attack us, but like most times, we just turn tail and run. Eventually we get to this conclave, which looks like an outpost of sorts, and we speak to this man who's trying to summon an ash golem. However, he's having trouble and it bugged out, so to get it unbugged, we have to go to the main floor inside, and for some reason it still didn't work. So what I decided to do was show up with Lydia, and it did work, but a dragon then appears, complicating the problem further, and so we have to just heal Lydia as a combat medic, and the battle rages on for a while, and after about 10 minutes the ash golem is dead. So I decided to go inside and send Lydia home, as she has served her purpose. But we now have to face a dragon, a much tougher opponent, so it's time to run to the town, and these guards, I have to say, they they don't mess around. They absolutely destroy the dragon. So now with all that sorted, we can get our restoration to 40. So it's over to the College of Windhold and time for more tuition. So we get our restoration up to scratch, and now it's time to dish a bunch of perk points around. So first up is recovery, so we can regenerate mana 25% faster. Then it's respite, so we can gain stamina whilst we heal. Very, very useful. We go to destruction of all places and use our remaining points to get Rune Master. We go back to the person we saved in the Dragonborn DLC and we get the Poison Rune. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the only restoration damage spell in the game, and it's here. We have it. We can now deal damage to anything. Undead, no problem. Use the sun on them. As for living creatures, poison them till their limbs fall off by the power of Nurgle. So we can go ahead and do the main quest line. So thank you, Dragonborn DLC. You made this challenge possible. You are amazing. Right, it's back to doing our quest, and we got to get the horn for the Greybeard. So it's off to the ruins and we find our first living opponent. Ironically, one of them is a necromancer, but our poison rune does its job very, very well. Eventually the bandits are no more and the necromancer is poisoned to death. So pretty brutal, but that's what you get when we could have teamed up together, but no, you decided to make us use the power of Nurgle. But moving on, we go into the ruins, and our poison rune is our spell of choice here. The apprentice necromancer is an adversary and a half, but after so much poison, the necromancer is dead. And then we have a couple of conjurers. They actually prove too much, but here's a little trick we can do, and we get blasted to smithereens. But it's time to reveal our trump card, ladies and gentlemen. We have Dragon Skin as our racial, and when we're attacked with magic spells, we regenerate our mana, and since poison runes stack, we can keep casting poison runes, adding so much damage to our repertoire. And since we have magic resistance, well, we just shrug off most of the magic damage, therefore adding more magic to cast. With the result, well, you can see it's pretty devastating. The only limit is we can only do it once a day, but it's pretty damn devastating. We go on further in, and Sunfire is just putting in excellent work. Since the Dawnguard, I do apologise by the way if I'm saying it wrong, but Sunfire is kicking them 3 ways to Sunday. They can't really stand up to our spell, it's just that powerful and it feels amazing. The skeletons are one shot, it's a demolition derby here as the undead really can't stand up to us. The Dawnguard know their spells, that is for sure. And we get to the location of the horn and well, Delphine happens saying she wants us to rent an attic room in Riverwood as a passphrase. So we leave, no horn in hand, and I just decide to prepare and upgrade our character. So after a few in-game days, we have a pretty amazing set of dwarven armor. We've upgraded bits and pieces, so things are going really well. However, it's now time for us to get a quest underway in Riften. So we go ahead and travel to the Temple of Mara. It has a blessing and it lets us heal 10% more with restoration. And the priestess here wants us to go on the temple's behalf to bring lovers together. I suppose we can do that, not too much of an ask. So we start the quest chain, the Book of Lovers. So speak to the lady and she wants to elope with a gentleman, and of course we speak to her parents and her mother is all for it. And you know what they say, ladies and gentlemen, mothers know best, and she's got her daughter's best interest at heart. Speak to her partner and Todd in fashion decides to send them both off with her lover. All is good. We go back to the temple as Dr. Fate from the DC verse and speak to the priestess again. And this time we have to go to Markarth and we have a recluse who wants to date someone. So we go to probably my favourite city in Skyrim and decide to speak to this scholar. And he has the typical high school problem of not being able to speak to his crush. However, if D&D has taught us anything, it's that if there is a problem with charisma check, go to a bard. So we do exactly that and we pay the bard 200 gold. He writes us a poem for our friend and we deliver it to his lover, and boom boom, we immediately receive a love letter back and they're now betrothed just like that. We go back to the temple once again and then we get the last quest, and this is 2 dead lovers who have remained lovers through death. We go to see how the spectral lover is doing and she's lost and it's kind of heartbreaking and we need to get her husband back. Since we're an able body, we managed to go to him and reunite them, and in clear Todd fashion, they float upwards towards the sky, not knowing what's going on. So we've done the side quest, the Book of Love, and now we have a permanent 15% magic resistance. Not bad at all. So we're at 65% magic resistance now, helping us immensely. And we're really leaning into the role of cleric, and it gotta say, it's actually quite wonderful. This challenge is enjoyable. I just love doing these sort of theme jet creative runs. So yeah, this is really cool. Anyway, we go to the College of Winterhold and we meet our tutor who wishes for us to demonstrate wards for him. So that's not a problem since we are well versed in using wards. But we get a couple of alteration spells, mainly Mage Light and Candlelight, so we have something to use. But it's now time to make our alteration power level massively. So go to north of Whiterun to the halted stream camp. A few bandits are here, but one of them is a mage, and so we use our ace combo, a dragon skin, to get stupid amounts of regeneration from his lightning spell and just cast lots of poison runes all over the place, making it a minefield for Nurgle. Pretty much responsible for the whole camp being destroyed, so big brain plays right there. Then we get inside the mine and we use boulders to our advantage and start making the bandits regret putting the trap in. Not sure why boulders are effective, but if it helps, then why not? So when we face the rest of the bandits, the train makes it easy to continuously cast Poison Rune on the bandit chief, and after a few potions to top off our magic, we hit him with a few Poison Runes, allowing us to claim our prize, the absolutely busted Transmutation spell. So we can turn iron to silver and silver to gold, so we can power level our alteration and make loads of money whilst we're at it. So we just buy a bunch of iron and silver ore, and we just sit by the blacksmiths in Whiterun and transmute a bunch of ores. We transmute for quite a while, I must say, until we hit level 70 alteration. It's a lot, and it took a lot of time sink, but trust me, it'll be worth it. But now you're probably wondering why we spent so much effort getting our alteration up to 100, and the whole reason I went through this is Action Arc. So when spells hit us, we absorb 30% of their magic. This is the last piece of our combo, since we can now absorb all magic. So with all that done, we go to Delphine, who decides we should kill a dragon. If we were anyone else, this will be certain death, but Delphine thinks it's fine as a trust test. Sure, I guess. During the fight, it's kind of awkward since the dragon can't really damage us, but we have a hard time poisoning the dragon since Delphine thinks it's okay to go into melee. Now, I will say a little bit here that I did lose the recording, but I can safely say that just using Healing Hands on Delphine pretty much won us the fight, whilst casting Poison Rune every now and then. But we go into the Falmore Embassy for whatever reasons, where Delphine thinks dragons are coming back to life and they're responsible. So we go to the embassy and, well, as you can see, our Poison Rune is doing fantastic since we've gained Adept Restoration, so we can just cast it frequently. And well, the damage is actually starting to get pretty ridiculous since the guards can't really do much as we run around, heal ourselves, and it's just a lot of fun. I've got to say, it's just it stacks pretty heavily against them. Well, Melbourne didn't fare too well, but we go to Delphine and she sends us to Riften to find Esbern. So we go to the Rataway in Riften and we get to Esbern and the Falmore are present. And well, a wizard starts zapping us, and like a car battery, we just start casting Poison Runes thanks to him zapping us. And it just lets us pile on the damage, and then when we're done, we just jump around and fast heal, as it's very effective for us and we can outlast our enemies no problem. So we get to Esbern and he tags along. After we have a heart-to-heart for 5 minutes, he unlocks the door. It's straight back out to get back to Delphine, and they have a reunion, and Esbern decides that it's time to go see Alduin's Wall. So it's off to some ruins, and I decide to get a horse and ride there, because why not? It's a little bit faster than running, so let's go. And once we get there, we go straight in, and the spellcaster here fuels our mana, and we do the wombo combo, as I like to call it, and our poison seeps into his veins, and then we solve a few simple puzzles, allowing us to progress, so we can get ahead and wait for Delphine and Esbern. Once we're at the Blades HQ in Skyrim at Skyhaven, we get to see Alduin's Wall, and Esbern lets us know that we need to acquire a shout to beat Alduin, and anyone who's beaten Skyrim knows the shout is called Dragonren. That forces dragons to land. So we get back to the Greybeards and hand the horn in so we don't have to deal with Delphine anymore. They are not impressed that we've been talking to the Blades, and I can't say I blame them, but the horn wasn't taken. We could just be at this point right now. But since it was, we continue forwards and they decide to teach us our final shout from the Greybeards themselves, and that is Clear Skies. And what we do is we use Clear Skies so we can clear the storms to get to Parfernax. When we get to Parfernax, he teaches us to breathe fire. So our voice can now be a Molotov in people's faces, and Parfernax is awesome for teaching us that. So thank you, Parfernax. But the real reason we're here is we need to learn Dragonren. And he says an Elder Scroll is needed, so we go to College of Winterhold to ask about it, and they graciously actually let us borrow a couple of books, which is really nice of this orc guy here. We ask him about a fellow who knows about the Elder Scrolls, and we ride our horse through the ice fields, and we speak to this gentleman, and he he sends us off with some dwarven artifacts to access the Elder Scrolls. So after more horse riding, we get to the ruins, and this is probably going to be the most challenging dungeon thus far, since the one enemy we can't hurt is mechanical enemies, since they are resistant to poison. So we do what we can with traps scattered about the area to some effect, and healing keeps us alive. We can quickly run through without too much trouble, and we eventually get to the bottom of the dungeon where we face a few of the elves, and they have bows and arrows which really hurt us, but we can use poison runes and traps to our advantage to defeat them. No problem. Also, we just run straight past the Centurion and ignore the adventurers and just start running through the next area, since enemies here can do a heck of a lot of damage to us. We just use our healing spells to refill our stamina and just keep running. Eventually we get to the Elder Scroll chamber, and it's actually quite a simple puzzle. All you've got to do is push the buttons from right to left and it's sorted. When we sort it out and the puzzle is done, we graciously grab the Elder Scroll. We go to Parfernax by fast travelling on our horse, and we use the Elder Scroll to see the heroes defeat a dragon. And for some reason, our horse is present in the past, so the horse must be the chosen one. But joking aside, we learn the shout Dragonren, and then we have combat with Alduin. I say battle, it was more like a marathon. So Alduin flies around. Whilst he's doing that, we regenerate our magicka, and then we use Dragonren to force him to land. Now, Poison Rune does 3 damage per second, but it lasts for 30 seconds and can stack. So we get about 2 or 3 into Alduin whilst he breathes dragon breath on us. We then regenerate a little bit of magicka, but the only real damage he can do is by biting us, and then we heal. And then we run away and Alduin takes off again. So we have to do this for about over 2 hours in real time. It was quite the battle, and it was very much an endurance test. And even Parfernax came down and we had to actually heal him up again so he could keep fighting. However, we do eventually win, and Alduin is beaten, and it feels absolutely amazing. So once we beat Alduin, we now have to convince the Jarl of Whiterun to capture a dragon, and he wants us to stop a war. This isn't too difficult. We ask the Greybeards to host the peace talks, and when they agree, we get General Tullius to agree first, and then Ulfric Stormcloak. Then everyone is present for the meeting, and it takes longer than it should, just hearing the NPCs talk, but when all is said and done, we can get on with the quest to trap a dragon. So Erebus teaches us how to summon Odahviing, which means Snow Hunter, and we go to Whiterun, and we go to the area where we can capture a dragon and call the Snow Hunter Odahviing so we can capture him. Very simple, as all we have to do is walk backwards after we do a couple of poison attacks on him, and the trap is sprung, and Odahviing then decides to help us to get to Alduin, and we do the magical moment of riding a dragon in Skyrim. Isn't it lovely, ladies and gentlemen? And we go into the lair of the evil villain Alduin. When we arrive, we decide to deal with a couple of Dawnguard and then just use Sunfire against some of the guards. It actually takes a few hits since they scale with our level, and inside it's a little bit better, but a lot of the undead here are higher levels than we initially faced much earlier in the challenge. But we still scratch them so we can still take them on. So we keep bursting against them, and then we solve the fiendish puzzles put in our way. The Dawnguard just gun down with our Sunfire spell since we have lots of magicka, lots of regen, so it's not really a problem. If we keep lobbing sunlight at them, it's eventually going to take them down, and it's working, so we keep doing it and they go down. We keep going through the temple, and the Draugr Lord is also dealt with as we just spam him like a machine gun shooting solar flares. It works absolutely perfectly, so problem solved. We defeated the temple and we head outside, and before the Dragon Priest can get to his stuff, we run as fast as we can and we sprint to the portal, and Bob's your uncle, we're in Sovngarde, the final part of the game. So we wade through the mists of Sovngarde as Dr. Breton Quest, the Cleric of Light, and we see the Guardian of the Hall of Heroes in Sovngarde, and well, we initiate a rite of passage as the Dragonborn, and well, our poison does its job very nicely, and after a moment we can pass to meet the heroes. So we speak to the heroes and they agree to help us out, and this Alduin fight is much faster. So we end up being a healer, letting the heroes do their thing, and we poison Alduin so they can do all the hard work, and our poison can finish him off. But Alduin is out of action and will stay that way until we damage him. But I will say, we've beaten this fair and square, so I'd actually call this a success. If we've beaten the entire game, rendered Alduin useless thanks to our poison, and any character that can do any damage to Alduin at this point wins the game. So I'm going to call this a win. Usually I'm very strict with the rules, but completing the whole game, Alduin to bug out like this because, you know, it is what it is and we can't punch him when any character can punch. I think this can be an exception. So we answer the question, can you beat Skyrim by using only restoration? And I think the answer is yes. Minus a punch, yes you can. And I will say it took a very unexpected turn, so there you go. Okay, so that run was amazing. The plan to add maximum defense for survivability, it worked like a charm. However, the poison rune spell was the only damage we could deal, and using that against Alduin, dear God, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's a very long fight, but hey, it worked and we could deal damage to everything but machines. Whilst limiting ourselves to just restoration magic, I wanted to just see how we would do against everyone. I will say that the magic resistance was necessary for the dragon fights mostly because we didn't have a fast way to kill them, so it became a game of outlasting our opponent. I would say a punch or fire breath or shout, whatever, to deal the final blow is kind of fair, so this was a blast to do, and it was like solving a puzzle on how to do things with restoration. But all that said, our next challenge, we're actually going to be diving into Cyberpunk, and we're going to see if we can do Cyberpunk without paying any cash. Now, I will say, I know there's one point in the story where we do have to pay cash, and I'm going to say that's the one time we do have to do it, and it's going to be a rule that that's the only exception. But other than that, everything else has to be done without, and I'm even going to include a rule where we can't use iconic weapons, so we'll just have to play smart and see what we come up with. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, it's that time in the video, so thank you all for watching. If you made it to this point in the video, just thank you. You make this job an absolute dream come true, so thank you so much. I've been Insane Frame. Thank you for your time. You're all fantastic and phenomenal. Look after yourselves, have a great day and a fantastic night, and stay safe. You're all wonderful, wonderful people, and don't forget that, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you all have a pleasant week, and I've been Insane Frame. I'll see you guys next time. Ta-ta everyone, have a great day.